Thank you so much. And with that, it's time to dive into our next panel discussion for today. The topic is balancing security and convenience with biometric-based payments. And we are absolutely honored to have amongst us esteemed speakers today. So let's welcome them with a thunderous round of applause. Presenting our moderator, Mr. Deval Sheth, Managing Director, Asia Pacific, Ultimaco. We have with us Mr. Abhishek Kumar Singh, Deputy Director General, Unique Identification Authority of India. A warm welcome to Mr. Ajay Kanwal, Managing Director and CEO at Jana SFB. Warm welcome to Mr. Kaushik Srinivasan, Co-founder at eMudra. And a very warm welcome to Mr. Sumnesh Joshi, Deputy Director General, Ministry of Communications, Government of India. So let us have a thunderous round of applause for all of them, please, and welcome them. Thank you so much. And with that, let's get into the discussion. I hand over to our moderator, Mr. Sheth.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining this session. I think we're going to be having a very interesting discussion, which is something which is going to define the future of payments in India. So if I look at where we are today, India, we are seeing a very large digital journey in payments, right? I mean, with the advent of UIDI, with the advent of IMPS and then UPI, we are really seeing a large number of consumers going digital. We are, as we move to the future, and if we look at the trends, digital is the way to be. In fact, tomorrow I think there's a formal CBDC launch also that the RBI is doing. So, it is indeed paving the way for the future. What's happening today is that, as we get into the payments, there are three things which become very important. One is convenience, second is security, and the third is managing fraud. So these are the three basic landmarks or milestones, or I should say pillars of having a successful digitalization journey. So as we embark on it, there are two major milestones which have happened. One is, of course, RBI approving the multi-factor authentication. So I think we will have these guidelines which will be coming up, and the government introducing the data protection bill, right, which is something which was needed, which was the call of the hour, and this will have a big impact on building up a higher consumer trust and to establish digital payments framework. So our discussion is how we balance security and convenience with biometric-based payments, and it's a pleasure to have such an esteemed panel with me. We have colleagues here from UIDI, from Department of Telecom, from one of the leading banks in India, and of course, one of the leading certificate providers, digital certificate providers in India. So with that, we would start this discussion. I would kind of start the question is that, when we are scaling digital payments, and, one of the key pillars is to scale biometrics, right? So my first question is to Abhishek ji. When we are, as UIDI, you've built a wonderful infrastructure. So, what do you think will be the extended role of Aadhaar in the future of biometric payments in India?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Very good question, especially in the context of RBI coming out with MFA norms. UIDI is the foundational infrastructure. It's the only way to surely know who is who. So one of the things that we, having the world's largest biometric database, we advocate very strongly is use of face authentication as a modality in the multi-factor assessment. And happy to inform that NPCI is on board with this thought process and approach. And in fact, NPCI will be in these days making this announcement that it shall be using for high-value transaction face authentication as a modality. So in fact, if there are representatives from other banks around, including my esteemed colleague, I would request to please get on board. And it's the easiest and the quickest way to actually authenticate yourself. Just to give an example, right now, the authentication infrastructure and framework, it's tied to devices. You need specialized devices to authenticate yourself. Except for the OTP part, if you're doing a biometric authentication, So the total device ecosystem is something around 4 million. The moment we talk of face authentication, your smartphone is your device. And the ecosystem, the device ecosystem, suddenly jumps to over 640 million. There are over 64 crores smartphones in India. This is the TRI report. It's dated by about 3 months. So that's the kind of convenience that it allows anyone to do.
Hey, thank you. I mean, I think this is a very interesting news. NPCI is on board. We are launching this, face authentication. So, Mr. Kanwal, as a bank, who is going to drive some of these things, what do you think is the key mantra for success, and what would you look at this from an adoption perspective?
So I think first, importantly, if there was no UIDAI, there would have been no digital bank or anything close to that in India. So I think we should give UID a big round of applause. And I tell you, fundamentally, our life has changed. So our bank deals in the financial inclusion space, where really we do about couple of lakh loans a month. Paper is not a possibility, but fraud is a high possibility. I think with the whole idea of biometrics coming in, eKYC coming in, that's changed everything completely. Following it with e-sign, you can imagine we can do a couple of lakh loans a month where we don't see paper. And we do that in about 180, 90 cities across India. So really the whole idea about reaching to every citizen and making credit available is only possible because of delivery through the identification mechanism, and now of course we followed that with signature. I think trust is a key part of any banking system, and doing two-factor is even more important, because for any reason your data is compromised, you really want the second one to save you. So I think what we heard on Face ID, I think, is really a very strong step for us. We obviously use biometric today. Moving into face would be a very natural, very normal, and a very strong business for us. And I think by far, I mean, we certainly are the best stack globally when it comes to how do you do digital journeys, both within banks and payments.
Thank you. Sumeshji, I would like to ask a question to you. I mean, you've been in UIDI and now you're running probably, you are a key representative from Department of Telecom, right? All these, with digital payments, everything is blurring, and with your experience, right, what do you think will be the biggest challenges, and how can we scale up biometric payments? What is your views on this topic, and what would you give recommendations to users and to ecosystem players?
Yeah, so thank you, Dhaval and GFF for inviting me here to share my experience. See, as everyone has spoken about that, the biometric-based payment. So biometric, nothing but it is authentication, basically, whether it's a payment or anything that we are giving using the biometric auth. And we have seen lots of things, right from opening of the bank accounts to now DG Yatra that you are seeing is seamless. And when the Reliance entered into the market, in the saturated market of the telecom, and 10 crore mobile connections. So all are the biometric based. So even the senior citizens who are the pensioners, for them again it's a payment. So we have scaled up and now door-to-door service. And here, one point that I would like to make, that even the UIDI, the payment that account opening or the withdrawal is taking place right now, it is in an assisted mode, because biometric is something that if it is stolen, you are nowhere. You can't reset it, just like a pin. So it's a very, protected asset that we have to take care. So now with the growing awareness about the security and the privacy, now people are scared also, right, to give the biometric. So one has to think that we have to build the trust that, yes, if we are taking your biometric with the consent, now DPDP Act is already, passed, anytime the date of implementation may come. So we have to design the entire ecosystem for the biometric. And another issue that I would like to flag, that once UIDI has taken all the biometrics, now all the authentication taking place where no storage of Aadhaar, no storage of the biometric at the time of authentication. But there are private attendance systems. See, Government of India, state government, central government, we have the Aadhaar-based authentication system. There's no biometric stored. But many people are storing the biometric individually. that is the dangerous thing. That we have to think that how we can protect those biometrics. If something is leaked, then it may create some problem an ecosystem. Now, of course, we have heard the news of the gummy fingerprints and now deep fake era where the face liveness maybe. So we don't know because the other side is smart. Today we think that yes, we are good enough, but we have to think that the other side is also trying to make your system a fool and misuse the biometric, maybe using the deep fake or the gummy fingerprints. So that's why the assisted mode business correspondent. So there's a trail that yes, this gentleman has come and withdrawn the money using the gummy. So it means the BC is hand in glove. So now, of course, it's a welcome step that NPCI is taking using the face auth. So we have a trust on the system. That's why people will do instead of OTP. Now one is using the face auth and immediately just seeing the face and payments are being done. But it will go scaled up. We have to see that again, what is the risk associated with this? Whether in the big ticket transaction it's fine, or we have to use a multi-factor authentication. So what I recommend that we should weigh our risk and then use the multi-factor authentication, because my own PIN cannot be think by the machine immediately, right? And 1 or 2 or 3. So maybe for a big ticket transaction, it may be biometric, maybe face or maybe finger, or multiple, right? Maybe the fusion that you are saying. Then on top of that, maybe OTP also, on top of that, also PIN also. So we can make, more secure. So again, it's a trade-off. So on one way, we are creating the convenience. And again, convenience is a very subjective term. Something is convenient to me, not convenient to you. So it's when a person who is happy that in 60 seconds my transaction is happening, I'm getting all the final transaction, even in the 10 seconds, so as such, there is no value addition for a particular segment. For some people, it's matter. No, why 60 seconds? It should be in millisecond or click. So again, we have to, thoroughly examine different type of scenarios. And yes, we have a know-how. We have everything available, all the tools available with us. But how to use it, how to innovate it. And we have to couple it with the existing digital public good infrastructure. So like e-sign or other DPI account aggregator. So what is the service that we have to put ourselves in the customer's shoes and think. It's not that as an entity, I have made some product, but then we are plugging in that, okay, or this happened, now I will plug it and I will give some solution. So like this, my suggestion is, or recommendation is, yes, biometric is really good. We are seeing the DG Yatra seamless, and similar way now NPCI is going to launch that your payment will be gone the seamless sort of thing, but everything has the other side also. So we have to take care of all these things using the multi-factor authentication. Just 1 minute I will take that the same biometric, right? Or the eKYC or the face. Now face modality is a biometric. And using the same face in the Department of Telecom, we have run the algorithm using same biometric. We have weeded out around 3 crore fraudulent mobile connections taken. And that is very much required. And like this, I suggest the bank should also use the same biometric to create a trust that yes, we are not having any bank account that has been taken in the fraudulent manner. And another, when it's not only the biometric payment will work alone, it's a gem trinity which is playing, in the ecosystem. So the biometric, and based on the biometric, now mobile connection or the bank account, and all these 3 things are going together. So mobile has become the last mile device, and which is very critical. Taken on the biometric based and using the mobile for the payment. Basically, you are using the mobile for the face, everything. The mobile is very critical. Now your mobile is stolen. Now Apple, you are opening using face. I am sleeping, someone has come, my mobile, my face, it's open and make the payment. What to do? So then we have to think that all these things we have to protect. And suppose your mobile is lost, what to do? So as a good news is the Department of Telecom has already come out with Sanchar Saathi, the Chakshu portal. You can report your lost mobile. We are around 34 lakhs mobiles lost that has been reported, and almost 23 lakhs we have got back also. But we can close it. So it's why I'm telling about the mobile also, because everything is linked. So many initiatives have been taken by the Ministry of Communication because it's a gem trinity, and mobile is the last mile device. So we have to protect that mobile, lost mobile, or maybe you don't know how many mobiles are on your name also, that also you can find out, because this is very critical device.
Sure. No. So I think we all agree that, multi-factor authentication is a welcome initiative. Along with it, as digitization happens, there are three things which become very important. One is how do you build consumer trust? How do you manage fraud? And as a bank or as a service provider, how do you cater to governance? Right? These become very important because the idea is to scale it up and to make the payment as frictionless as possible. One of the realities also there that today most of the data is moving to the cloud, right? I mean, it is a natural phenomena which is being seen globally, right? In India also, we are experiencing a lot of fintechs, a lot of banks either doing private clouds or either doing public clouds, right? So if we talk about, governance and trust, how do we manage risk and how do we manage, consumer trust becomes very, very, very important. I remember, my company invented the PIN. So we used the PIN. We invented the PIN in 1991. And, we are saying that now if we have to go ahead, right, what are the new innovations which will be required to make the consumer trust seamless, right? So one of the key things that we see now in the future is with data moving to cloud is how do you manage your keys? Because it becomes very important to have a right chain of custody of the keys, right? So if we are looking at this kind of scenario, I would like to direct my question to Kaushik. You as a leading e-signature and digital certificate provider, what do you see are the key topics that any service provider or any user, like a bank, should provide? And what is your expectation from nodal agencies such as UIDAI, RBI or Telecom to help build consumer trust and for governance?
Thank you, Deval, for that question. I think cryptographic keys are obviously invisible foundations of digital trust. Right? In many ways, the conversation's really shifted, like you said, from PIN to now keys. And in that context, it's not really who owns the key. It is basically three things, right? What is the control? What is the custody? And then how is the usage kind of authorized? Because today, like you said, in shared IT environments where data may be somewhere, the person may be somewhere, but again, you have the key stored on the cloud or vice versa or any kind of combination. Really, the control and custody becomes complex because you may be controlling the key, but the custody may be with the third-party provider. And how do you really manage this? So the key governance aspect, again, operates at two layers, right? So one is essentially banks to financial switch or central bank, and therefore, how do they manage, let's say, payment keys, or how do they manage customer keys, and how is that governed? And there, I think the regulator is pretty clear that you need to have really verifiable control boundaries with appropriate audits so that everything is traceable back to the action performed by the bank. And the second is the customer to the bank. And today, that is where the MFA guidelines are pretty interesting because, as rightly pointed out, as we move into high-value payments as an economy, keys will become critical in enabling that authorization. And that is where, for instance, digital signatures that are used under the laws of the land provide that legal non-repudiation benefit. So tomorrow, if there is a fraud, you can clearly trace back to the individual. So these are things to keep in mind is really that distinction between control, custody, and use, and how do you bring verifiability and traceability right to the last mile to the customer.
Sure. And I think this is where also some policy matters will have to be really enforced. There was a big opposition by EU. I don't know if how many of you all followed it right now, because America wanted a backdoor entry to all the CSPs, okay? So to all the applications, and EU protested it vehemently, which is why today Microsoft, which is where today AWS had to consent, okay, to blocking that and to provide us services such as bring your own keys and to do a double key encryption, right? Because otherwise EU blocked it completely. I think today we are also at such a stage in the entire ecosystem that India can demand this, right? India can demand it and have a very strong policy framework and as a policy requirement. So, which is where my question is to Mr. Kanwal. What do you think, as a bank, you're going to adopt it, you're going to lay it out to the customers from nodal agencies and regulators. So we have UIDAI and we have DOT here, and probably RBI representatives also you would be dealing. What would be your requirement from, or what would be your ask from these nodal agencies, for scaling this kind of a biometric-based digital payment infrastructure?
So they will, I must say, for us, the security part is really primary. And customer education or citizen education on how to feel comfortable about security is huge. Because once that is done, then there'll be less scare. I think the point that you made around two-factor, I think that is important for all of us to execute. Because it's possible through some means one may get compromised, but having the second or the third will always save us. So I think from an institution perspective, we are very clear in our minds that it can't be just be a single factor. I think from both the regulators, what we need really is the belief and the trust that there is very strong guard. And what you mentioned about EU doing those practices, I think those are relevant from a tech perspective, right? So that we feel very guarded. I think the third piece is, how do you integrate everything into a much bigger answer? Because you really have face, you have biometric, you have e-sign. It's very much possible that the utilities of this may go up significantly, right? So we are talking of how do you register properties in the end? How do you transfer properties? I mean, you just can take this to another level. So I think there is, like I said, I mean, I wish I was in a moment where I could really ask for a lot of things. But I think in our case, the regulator has probably reversed the course, where they are ahead of us and we are really happy that they're doing this and we're completely following that. So I really don't have a big ask and I should be very candid about it.
Well, thank you. So, I mean, this is bound to happen. And, we are all speaking about consumer kind of trust, right? And the data protection bill, I think we should also have the operating guidelines very soon. It should be available in the month of October itself, right? I think execution of those guidelines, implementation of those guidelines, the consumers being aware of it will really, really play a big part. What is going to play even a bigger part is your consent, right? Today, your consent approval has to be there. So if I'm looking at some of these developments which are going to happen in India, so from a consumer trust perspective, so, Abhishek ji, what is your perspective, right? I mean, what kind of enhanced framework, UIDI would be building up, to have these kind of new revised guidelines, new revised consent management practices in place so that we can scale up things like biometric payments. Maybe you can share some insights and your views on that.
Yeah, sure. One very good thing about this basic foundational layer called Aadhaar is that it was designed with certain basic principles in mind. And the principles were about privacy first, minimalism, very basic information we take. And it is not connected, any individual's information is not connected to anyone else's information except maybe in case of children, where it's necessary to map them till they become 18. With their parents. So, and plus, when we talk of authentication framework, we do about 9 crore authentication per day. And each authentication is backed by a consent. So, the basic principles that DPDP seeks to bring in, thankfully, it's in the DNA of Aadhaar to actually adopt, imbibe, and go by them. So a couple of things that we might need to develop and delve is, we are also waiting for the detailed guidelines to come up. Say for instance, DPDP allows me the right to forget. So that's a very interesting scenario that we will have to think of, delve and deliberate as to if someone says, please forget me, which means that, so what do we do? We delete the data. So these are questions that we will have to actually deliberate. But as far as privacy is concerned, utmost everything that we deal with, right from the moment we are taking someone's biometrics at any moment, is all encrypted. To the moment the eKYC packet is handed over to the requesting entity, everything within the system and to the last mile is all encrypted. So privacy utmost always. And we do seek to incorporate whatever the DPDP framework will ask us to make. I'm sure those will be minor ones.
Thank you. So, Sumnesh ji, maybe I should ask a question to you, right? I mean, you spoke about how do we manage risk and how do we manage fraud, right? With this adoption happening, it is very important, right? You mentioned about phone loss, you mentioned about all of these things, right? So consumer education, consumer awareness is a must, right? But otherwise, what do you think are, would you like to share your views on how do you think fraud and risk management can happen from your perspective?
Yeah. See, as we discussed, so it's again Jam Trinity. So mobile is again a critical piece. And in the financial, transactions, now the UPI is working. It's basically mobile to mobile payment, and many frauds are happening, and we are hearing about all those things. So Department of Telecom has come out with a very unique, concept of the financial risk indicator. So what we have done, because if anyone is having a suspect on a particular phone call, so they are reporting those number to DOT, right, through the Chakshu portal. And then NCRB also reporting, and we have a DIU platform where all the financial entities, law enforcement, and all are connected. So they are also sharing, banks are also sharing those fraudulent mobile numbers. So using some algorithm, we have given the weightage to that mobile number. It is a very risky mobile, medium risk or low risk. And now RBI recently, just I think 3-4 days back, had issued an advisory, second time advisory also, please adopt this FRI. So whenever any payment is pop up, okay, I want to make a payment to a particular mobile number. So maybe it's a very risk, so one has to think that maybe sometimes the provider can block it or maybe give a red color sort of thing, some warning sort of thing, so people are adopting. So this is a new thing that, has come into the ecosystem that is very much required. And second is that I request that all the ecosystem partners should use, the resources available and share the resources and collaborate. For example, many mobile numbers have been disconnected. So there's a mobile number revocation list that we are making available to all the financial entities and state governments, so they can make use of it, and you can clean your database also. Yes, this is a number doesn't exist, but it's there in your database. So it's a continuous process. So using this DIU platform, so all entity can collaborate and make the system robust, because risk is associated. And another point from the risk point of view, as I already told, that biometrics can't be reset, right? So, for example, in UIDI, when we do the Aadhaar authentication, it's a two-factor authentication. So, back Aadhaar, or maybe it's a token, or maybe some reference number related to the Aadhaar and the biometric. So, these two things are going to the biometric, because only on the single biometric, UIDI is not responding. Maybe the NPCI is doing, but it's actually a one Aadhaar and one biometric modality. Now, suppose in any case my biometrics have been installed, I have a suspicion that someone is using my face. So I should have something. That's is my suggestion. I don't know maybe how the others can take it and make use of it. We can have some reference numbers like alias. Maybe as on date I have a Sumnesh Joshi at that UPI, and I think that is going to misuse. I can reset it. So maybe in Aadhaar database also we may think of something like that. That is under my control, and I can change it depending upon the risk. Because biometrics is fixed. That I can't change. So this is how we have to mitigate the risk. And of course, all the entities, please don't store the raw biometric, because we are in habit, and many vendors coming, please take the biometric. So it's very dangerous, because I have one incident that in Gujarat was ahead, in the IT. So they have started the Aadhaar enabled this public distribution system. They have connected 2 fingers, right? And then they seeded Aadhaar also. So that data has become a dangerous, because Aadhaar and biometric. Now all the registration system where you are doing all leave and license registrations or the registry, etc. They are also taking Aadhaar. Maybe they are writing Aadhaar. Maybe now they have stopped, because UID has taken action on all those entities continuously. But still, if there's an Aadhaar number and along with the biometric, and one can misuse. So we have to be very protected. We should not use raw biometric. We should not collect. Maybe we can further think that only Aadhaar available or biometric available in the UIDI can be used. And already UIDI has come out with a regulation that even the private entities can also use Aadhaar. There is a SOP. Maybe Abhishek can further give some detail about that. It's not only the government entity, even the private entity can also use the Aadhaar authentication.
Yeah, just to add to what Sumnesh just said. See, basically, Aadhaar, if you look at it in terms of governance, Initial thought process was transparency and targeted delivery. Later on, through enablement in the Telecom Act, in the PMLA, we had the private entities from the financial side, as well as the telcos using this framework. But there is a whole use case out there in the world whereby there is dire need of having a perfect identification of the person. Say, for instance, private security. I mean, there are ways and means. They do some checks. But the easiest, the least cost, and the most cost-effective way would be to do a Aadhaar authentication. So realizing, say, matrimony, for instance, happy to inform that certain companies, in fact, the biggest player in this space, is evincing interest that all their users, they shall be onboarding after Aadhaar authentication. In fact, so these private use cases have now been opened, so long as the use case is in national interest. There is a way, there is a SOP, and we call them good governance rules. Through that, the application can be made. There's a portal through which the entire process takes place. It's an online process and a fairly seamless one. And we, from UIDI, we want more and more use cases in national interest to come up and use Aadhaar authentication as the backbone.
Sure, and of course, Aadhaar authentication also gives way to a consent management in one way, which is a key in the data protection bill guidelines. So Ajay ji, from your perspective as a bank, right, you all do risk management and you all do this day in and day out, right? So for this to succeed, right, what are some of the initiatives that you would recommend everybody to take?
So I think for us, what has changed really is the whole frauds have come down purely because of the e-verification process. For us, the speed of delivery has improved because of e-sign. I think the one piece which if we can figure out a way to kind of map across is the geotagging. I think the one important thing we do separately is the geotag of the client and when he does transactions. We normally have seen geotagging being a very important one when it's overseas transactions versus local. But I think another way we can work harder with customers, we do that with employees for sure. So when employees start the day, they basically, through a biometric mark attendance, through geotag, we know place of operation. We know how he operates the whole day every time he touches his mobile or his tab. And the geotag really tracks him through the day. I think as we go forward, I think using geotag more along with either e-sign or the biometric verification will be an important one.
Okay, we have 2.5 minutes, so maybe before we move to the Q&A, so I want to cover two questions, but firstly to Kaushik, maybe, you guys operate in close to 20 countries, right? I mean, what do you see are the international best practices which could be adopted in India, which can help make an ecosystem much more safer and much more scalable? Because we are talking about safe and scalable. These are the two buzzwords we have, or the keywords we have picked up in this entire discussion.
No, I think as we move towards a privacy-focused sort of conversation, consent's an important part. But consent's not really the gateway to capture every information about an individual, right? So you have to really select, pick and choose what information you want to capture. And if you do end up capturing, then if your use case, let's say, is just analytics, then maybe you anonymize the data. You don't need to store the data in the form that you capture. But if you do need to end up then storing the data, then obviously then you vault it, right? Which is where guidelines by UIDI are pretty clear, pretty elaborate on how do you deal with personal data, probably as Abhishek ji said, way ahead of the DPDP. And then UIDI again has very clear, distinction between, let's say, local KUA, global KUA, what data you get, what can you use, etc. Right? So they are really the benchmark, I would say. So that's really how you work with personal data, and this is largely what global practices also kind of imply, right? So there are regimes, GDPR, and so many others. But I think the combination of DPDP and plus what we've seen with UIDI are really benchmarks on how do you deal with personal data, how do you use consent, what do you use it for, how do you anonymize, how do you tokenize and whatnot, right? So.
Yeah, one of the things we are seeing globally is the use of timestamping, right? There is geotagging is one of the ways. Other thing is timestamping. What do you think could be the key adoption of timestamping in India? Kaushik and Ajay ji, maybe if you can share your views on that.
I just keep it quick. Timestamping is a very critical, broadly not well understood piece because time has to be there has to be a sanctity to time. For instance, property registrations, transaction, and if that's going electronic, then you need to kind of timestamp everything, right? So there are a lot of interesting use cases emerging where time itself is digitally signed along with the transaction. So while you have e-sign, while you know the user, while you know the location, you also know time. Because some of these transactions go well into the future, like a home loan transaction, which probably a dispute will arise 20 years from today. But how do you then know that, okay, this is the person, this is the place, this is the time, right? So,
Sure. Thanks. Last point, I think we're running very short of time. But one of the things is when you scale up everything, right, you have to be ready for the future as well. You do not have to look at the present moment. So in 5 years from now, there is something which is going to happen, which we all faced in the year 1999. We had this Y2K thing, which, I don't know, many people would have kind of experienced it, right? In 2030, the current crypto algorithms which are used for encrypting the data and for protecting the data, they're going to be broken, okay? They're going to be broken. The US government, the EU, all of the governments have said that your system has to be ready for the post-quantum effect. So quantum computers will be able to break this, what we are seeing currently. So imagine what you have today is not going to be secure. So I'm very happy to say our company has been working with NIST, which is one of the leading bodies in certification agencies in this space, and they are one of the leading implementation partners of security. We've been working them for the last 4 years, and happy to share that there are already 5 algorithms which are already in place. There are 3 more which are coming up in this year, and by end of next year, at least the current visible algorithms will be there and catered in place. So many of the governments. And today, for example, if anybody wants to do business with the US government, you have to have your systems and your cryptographic keys have to be NIST certified, have to be PQC ready. So in India, right, I mean, this is something which is going to happen. So, how do we keep our systems future ready? How do we keep ready from quantum? Maybe a short comment from each of my fellow panelists, and then maybe we can take one question, and then, we'll be available for offline discussion. So maybe we go in sequence.
Sure. Two quick points here. First is, yes, we are aware of this challenge. And NIST, the new algos that they have announced, we right now follow all their standards, even as we speak. So we are evaluating this. We are in talks with the CCA, also NPCI. So probably something concrete will come up very soon. And all that I can very definitely say is I can assure the House that 5 years hence, if once quantum computing becomes mainstream, well, our algorithms and our encryption will also become that much more difficult to break. That's all.
I think from my perspective, I think all institutions should really invest, because quantum computing, while will cause challenges, will also provide opportunities. And certainly when it comes to frauds, analytics, or even moving the AI engine faster for banks, I think it will be a huge advantage. So it is just about keeping your head focused on it and just investing in it.
just 2 quick things. One is the fact that the risk is really today because state actors are harvesting encrypted data. So when the transition comes, they'll already have encrypted data that they can sort of decrypt. This is probably a huge risk in sensitive areas like, for instance, defense. There's active conversations on how do you really transition. The second starting point, obviously, there are guidelines on C-bombs, like cryptographic bill of materials, which is really the starting point on identifying what kind of cryptographic inventory each one of us hold, and then figure out what's sensitive and how do you really move towards a PQC era.
See, as per Honorable Prime Minister's initiative and directions guidelines, the CDOT, and it's a Make in India. So they are working, and they already demonstrated the quantum communication, quantum computing. They are doing it. So we have to be, ready with the coming era where, one can break. For example, if raw biometric that we say it's a safe, but if someone is stolen right now, for them it's a garbage, but in the quantum computing, it is an asset. And second, other side I see, because now this generation Z, right? So they are really equipped with all these things because they are living all these things. So if something has happened, so maybe to my mind, generation will be ready to, to take care of all these things. And last one point that I want to make, just 30 seconds, that in 5 years, maybe the future we are going, no one, maybe UID has taken a good step, but other has to take a step that death has to be connected, the death registration data should be in a real time, take it from the RGI, all the banks, all the entities who serve delivering services, because as on that we don't know, even after the death, someone can misuse the OTP also, and they are doing it. Maybe they are generating the certificate, they are using the services, that is very important thing.
Okay, so I think it's super imperative that we follow the global practices, follow the global guidelines which have been set up. There are investments to be done, there is openness which needs to be there, and this needs to be really taken up in place. Time's up, but
thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll just take one question, please, from the audience, and can we bring the mic here to this gentleman, please? All right, you can use this one.
This is a question for Dr. Sumnesh. Dr. Sab, you know that identity is usually a combination of factors like who you are, what you do, where you are at a particular moment of time, what time is it, and what you do. So there are many things that can be used, right? And you actually touched upon the most important thing, which is to say that there are different strokes for different folks, or different use cases for different situations. So from your point of view, is it going to be just the same old, or is it going to be a dynamic basket of different forms and factors for identification?
So one, thank you very much for making me the doctor, but I'm not a PhD, but yeah, I hope so that very soon I will use actually the doctor. So see, I'm again repeating the same thing because it's actually very context to context. So right now, when we started the banking, maybe it's a token across the counter. After 1 hour, then it is because the credit card, then debit card, now the mobile app. And maybe the form factors keep getting changed. So maybe for the consumer, maybe people want quick service. Maybe they want only the face auth, but it should be backed by some mobile device. So it depending upon the risk, right? And what kind of value you are generating by giving that quick service. Maybe someone will not like quick service because it's a 1 crore transaction. There are many senior citizens, they say, no, you take 24 hours to transfer the money, but I don't want to lose my money. So it's again in the DPDP with the consent driven, when we roll out the entire architecture, we should take into all these factors into account and design the system. But the system should be in such a manner that has to cater each and every individual preferences. This is how I think system will work.
I would like to thank my fellow panelists for having a meaningful conversation. I would like to thank the audience for patiently listening to us. I hope you found our discussion insightful, relevant, because the future of biometric payments is here. It's here to stay. At the same time, it's imperative to build trust, to own your keys, and to scale this up in a right and a proper manner while compiling to the local laws of the land. We'll be available for a short while. If you have any questions, please do ask us. But yes, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let's have a resounding round of applause, please, for all our expert speakers. We'll go in for a group photograph, please, quickly, to commemorate this very important moment where all the expert speakers shared their valuable insights.